So as a speaker, you're probably going to want to convince them, your listeners, to trust, to believe, to understand what you're trying to say. And you're going to use ethos, pathos, and logos. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. And what I want you to start thinking about is how you probably already use ethos, pathos, and logos in your everyday life when you're talking to people, convincing them of your point and your perspective. So let's talk about ethos, pathos, and logos. Now, these were first proposed in ancient Greece by Aristotle, and he proposed them as tools to convince. Ethos, based on the Greek word ethos, pathos, pathos, and logos, which was logos. And he proposed that these were the three essential tools that a speaker can use to persuade and convince their listener. So ethos is based on the word, it's based on actually the Greek word that means character or credibility. And ethos convinces using the speaker's character, their credibility, and their ethics. You listen to them because of who they are. Pathos, this is actually based on the word, the Greek word for emotions. And it uses emotions. And so in pathos, you are persuading using not only like an emotional argument where you're appealing to a person's emotions, but you're also using your own emotions as a convincing method or a mechanism. I tell you to do the right thing because it pulls on your heartstrings to think otherwise. If I'm appealing and telling you that if you see somebody on the side of the road and they need help, I may persuade you saying, imagine how you would feel terrified on the side of the road with no one to help you. I play upon your emotions. Now, logos is actually based on the word, W-O-R-D, in ancient Greek. And what logos means is using the words that you're writing and the logic surrounding it and evidence to convince. And so in logos, I may use evidence to convince you, saying you should believe this because of this reason. And so ethos, pathos, and logos really play the foundation of a persuasive argument. And so as you're thinking about how to not only write a speech, but how to speak and convince others, you need to think about how ethos, pathos, and logos together work in junction to help convince someone. So now what I want you to do is listen along with me to a speech that you probably already heard. And I want you, along with me, to think about ethos and how is this person speaking and using their character or credibility or ethics to convince. I want you to think about the pathos. Where are they using emotion or their passion? Or logos, where are they using logic or reasoning? So listen along. I'm going to talk along too, and we'll pause and we'll reflect.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history
He says he's happy.
as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
That there's pathos, using emotion, he's happy.
50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today.
Okay, so now we actually are hearing some ethos, but also a little bit of logos. Ethos, and who is he talking about? He also used 5 score. Where have we heard that before? Maybe the Gettysburg Address. Abraham Lincoln, he's standing in front of the Lincoln Monument. So we're seeing not only logos where he's using logic and evidence saying, look at this, and logic, we're standing here, and he's using ethos of that character and that credibility of comparing what he's doing to the work that Abraham Lincoln did. Let's keep listening.
Signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
More of the logos.
This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves.
Pathos.
Who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice.
Pathos.
It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity.
Ethos and pathos.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free.
Logos.
100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later,
Pathos and logos.
the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
So there's a little bit of
We
ethos.
hold these
going with
truths to be
pathos and
self-evident
logos.
that all men are created equal.
So there's ethos. All people are created equal.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
This story is using logos.
One day, even the
reasoning.
state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream.
Now, I want to point out that storytelling, what he was just doing, and descriptive storytelling really does use pathos. So he's persuading using not only emotions, but through the storytelling of his passion is being spread to convince other people of his points.
My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
Logos and ethos working together.
I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
So here you see ethos, pathos, and logos working together of painting that picture of a future, and then using the ethos, the credibility, the ethics of this future picture, saying this is who we should be, this is where we should be. And so I'm going to play, and I'm going to stop talking. But what I want you to do is continue listening. And as you hear ethos, pathos, and logos, I want you to write it down. Okay, let's listen. Enough of me.
Dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough dark places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when the capital, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
So even in that last section, we heard Reverend Martin Luther King saying or speaking using ethos, pathos, and logos. The story about people being able to work together to hold hands, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles. This is very much using both ethos of people being able to work together, of ethics of people that are good people should be able to work together and stand side by side holding hands. Logos, saying that this is a good world. This is what we should do. The logic of it is correct. And that pathos, which is that using the emotion of painting a happy picture, of saying people one day will be happy doing this. And so throughout his speech, it is not just the words that he is saying, but how he is structuring his persuasion is what makes this speech beautiful. So think about that. So in closing, just like in how you heard in Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, how he utilized that ethos, that character of ethics, the pathos, the emotions, and using emotions and passion as a tool to convince, and the logos of that logic and reasoning. When you speak as a speaker, you have to utilize all three of these. Often, all three together, if not one after the other, but joint. And that is how you're going to be able to take your speaking from just saying the words to actually convincing people to not only listen, to not only believe you, but to be on your side. And you have convinced them. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned a little bit. As always, this is Greg. Thanks for listening.